Welcome back, Year 9. This is Mr. Walter speaking, and we are on to our 5th lesson of the suffrage movement. Strange starter, I hear you say, though. What's going on? Well, today we're thinking about the title, Could Ideas of Suffrage Emerge from Nothing? Did they have to come from something in order to want and need the vote? So that's kind of strange starter, but that will make sense as the lesson goes on. So a little activity. What came first, the chicken or the egg? Can you have the chicken without the egg? If so, why? If not, why not? Have a think to yourself. So this is all about the start of something or the cause of something. And today our chicken is almost like our suffrage, the right to vote. Could that emerge from nothing, or did it need some kind of egg to spark it, to create it, to make it an option as such? So that's what you're thinking about today. Now look at this picture. Pause the video if you want. Look at all the things that are going on in it and why that might be happening. Pause the video. This is actually in 1831, way before the suffrage, women's suffrage. So World War I was 1914. The first point women gained the vote, 1918. This is 1831, so many years before. And riots are breaking out all over England. 200,000 protesters are preparing to march on London. Soldiers have refused to prepare their sabres to defend the country, and the PM is terrified. But why on earth are we on the verge of a revolution? The clue is these, if you can see it on the screen. Because it's the Industrial Revolution. Changes in society, such as in working conditions, in living conditions, led ordinary people at this time to feel a lot of anger and resentment towards the government. This is because they had no power to change the conditions they were in. And this is because they had no money, or very little money, but also no vote. So no one was standing up for their views or their opinions or their side as such. Now, your teacher will have posted 2 other videos, YouTube videos. Please watch these to give you some background knowledge on the Industrial Revolution, so the creation, in effect, of factories, of huge amount of production, and that meant a lot of people moving to cities to work in these factories. So that will give you some background knowledge that will help you with today's lesson, and then you can come back probably to watch this video. So, why was this so important? I'm going to actually jump to this slide first, come back to that. Well, as we said, the Industrial Revolution meant the sort of creation and development of factories, and a huge amount of people working in these factories and moving to cities. Now, these factories weren't nice places to work. They're very cramped, very tight, very dangerous. They were full of actually very young people. You'd have workers as young as 6, potentially, in some of these factories working on jobs. So that meant the conditions were horrible. And also, their living conditions weren't much better. So just outside of the factories, they would live in quite cramped conditions. Again, quite polluted conditions, because it was all pollution coming out of these factories. And they didn't have much space. Now, they did live close to each other, and that meant they could communicate ideas. And the ideas they wanted to communicate was this anger and resentment that we were talking about before. Now, the only way they could get any power was by having a say, and therefore they needed to communicate their ideas with each other to try and force their way to having a say in life. Now, the only way to have a say in life is through the vote, so they can help choose who was representing them in government and who was the government itself. They had to try and force this through. However, at this point, only men, and more middle-class men, were able to force this through. And this was seen as the Chartist movement at first. And Chartism was a movement, as you can see here, during the Industrial Revolution in the 1830s. And the aim was to gain political voting rights and influence. So they start to get males' votes. At first, just middle class, but then this moves to, so people with more money and more wealth, but then this moves to the working class males also getting the vote. Now, problem here is that women still have no vote, yet they are working. So they're living and working in bad conditions. They're angry and resentful that they have no say, but also, even more now, they feel disempowered because men actually do have the right to vote. So this means women now are angry and want to rise up and try and force through the opportunity for them to have the vote too. And that leads to campaigns for suffrage in the late 1800s and early 1900s, the suffragists and the suffragettes. So if we were to summarise this, why did unhappiness 100 years before the women's suffrage movement begin matter? Well, it made ordinary men and women see they had no power and believed they needed representation, in the example of the vote, in order to have a say. And this triggered then the suffrage movements later. Come key dates for us. In 1832, property-owning men could vote, so these would be seen as middle class. In 1867, working-class men in cities could vote, so these are the people working in factories, less money. 1918, as we know, after World War I, property-owning women, or middle-class women, over the age of 30, who were married, could vote. But it was not until 1928 that universal suffrage for all, so this was all people, men and women, could vote on equal terms. So, I want you now to kind of consolidate some of that learning and what you can see as why this was an important cause. Make sure you watch the 2 videos on the Industrial Revolution, some background, and then you're going to read the worksheet attached. It's got some key characters, 6 different ones. I want you to work out who each character is, so their job, could be their name, their job, maybe what age they are, how wealthy they are, so are they a working class, poorer person working in a factory, or are they a more middle class, more wealthy person who is maybe part of running the factory or managing it? What are they unhappy about? What's the problem? And look up any words that you do not understand. There might be a few. Once you've done that, I want you to go to number 3. I want to write a speech. So imagine you are a factory worker, a chartist, or whoever in the 1830s. I want you to write a speech protesting about the poor conditions you find yourself in, both living and working, and say why you need the vote or why you need change. So this is what they look like, but it'll be attached for you as well. And finally, if we're thinking about, therefore, our key words, well, this might be our root cause, the social problems. The social problems that exist are leading to the need and desire for change for both men and then later women in terms of the vote. And this helps lead to the suffragists who accelerate the process, speed it up, the suffragettes who speed it up once more, and World War I that potentially triggers it. And that it is obviously gaining the vote. Although you could argue that you might position these differently, and that would be your choice. And this ties us back in to our question. Was violence the driving force behind women getting the vote? Was violence the main reason that women got the vote? Looking at all those different causes, you can really start to formulate your ideas now in regards to this. Keep up the good work and make sure you are submitting what you are doing.